Scientists at the United Nations climate talks in Azerbaijan say carbon pollution levels continue to rise worldwide, despite dropping in the US and Europe. According to the Global Carbon Project, a group of scientists who track the world and countries' carbon emissions this year, the world is on track to release 41.2 billion tons of the main heat-trapping gas into the atmosphere. Now, that's a 0.8% increase from 2023. The carbon pollution jump comes as several UN reports say the globe has to cut emissions by 42% by 2030 to possibly limit warming to an internationally agreed threshold. The top leaders of the 13 largest carbon dioxide polluting countries will not appear at the COP29 summit. Their countries are responsible for over 70% of 2023's heat-trapping gases.
Increased again in 2024, and we're clearly not doing enough on a global scale to reduce emissions. It's as simple as that.
If we take today's levels of emissions, we've got 6 years. So, it's massive cuts that we have to do. I mean, there are some good news stories here. So not all the countries are increasing emissions. So there's the United States and Europe are decreasing emissions. There's a rollout of renewables in some countries that has to accelerate. So, although the general message is sort of slightly gloomy, there are some positives there.
Well, the president of COP29's host country has told the UN climate conference that oil and gas are a gift of God. Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev criticized Western fake news about the country's emissions and said nations should not be blamed for having fossil fuel reserves. The government plans to expand gas production by up to a third over the next decade. He claimed his country had been the target of a well-orchestrated campaign of slander and blackmail since being named as the venue for the COP29 summit due to its rich oil and gas history and trade.
Azerbaijan's share in global gas emissions is only 0.1%. I have to bring these figures to the attention of our audience because right after Azerbaijan was elected as a host country of COP29, we became a target of coordinated, well-orchestrated campaign of slander and blackmail. Western fake news media and so-called independent NGOs and some politicians, as if we're competing in spreading disinformation and false information about our country. To accuse us that we have oil is the same like to accuse us that we have more than 250 sunny days a year in Baku. I said it several months ago, and now all those who want, international media, to attack me, just quote me that I said that this is a gift of the God, and I want to repeat it today here at this audience. It's a gift of the God. Every natural resource, whether it's oil, gas, wind, sun, gold, silver, copper, all that are natural resources. And countries should not be blamed for having them and should not be blamed for bringing these resources to the market because the market needs them. The people need them. So this is my message, and as a president of COP29, of course, we will be a strong advocate for green transition, and we are doing it, but at the same time, we must be realistic.
Well, joining us live from Baku, Azerbaijan, for more updates on COP29 is Arise correspondent, the great superstar, Ovieteme George. Award-winning.
Award-winning.
Good morning, Ovieteme. How are you today?
Ovieteme, I hope you know that your award, that fish, Ovieteme, fish is only what I need from you for that award. Fish from Bayelsa. Ovieteme, tell us what's going on, as regards, the summit, what you see thus far. And this President Aliyev slandering the West fake news
media
for saying all sorts of things about his country, saying that his oil is a gift of God. Don't tell me about emissions.
Well, I wouldn't say he was out of place. Every country, every faithful and patriotic citizen of a country should do so about the image of their country. Well, he has done that. That is his position. But Rufai, he almost took the sails out of my, I wanted to say something to start this interview, but you've taken it. But yeah, I remember now. Rufai, Baku, Azerbaijan comes into global focus again because of COP29. But don't forget, follow me please if you can, to 2019 at the Olympic Stadium in Baku here. Something happened when Chelsea played Arsenal. Now, this is not for Rufai to celebrate because it doesn't bring good memories of that final match. Well, once again, welcome. Chelsea lost, Rufai? I just rubbed it in. Well, we are in Baku, Azerbaijan for COP29. The push for zero carbon emission. That is the focus. It has always been the focus, more like a yearly ritual. But this time around, Babayev didn't say much, but Guterres, Antonio Guterres, United Nations Secretary General, was saying something that I find quite profound. He said, the sound you hear is the ticking clock. He is calling for urgent action, climate action, helping countries that are most vulnerable. Now, this calls for concern, isn't it? Because just last week, I think on Wednesday, as far as my memory serves, former President-elect now making a second missionary journey to the White House, Donald Trump said something about the climate change push. He said it's a scam. Rufai, did you hear that when he said it's a scam? Now, that gives something to worry about because the United States of America is a major financier, and the delegation here may, whatever decisions they take may not stand because Trump comes in January and he's saying this climate thing is a scam. He said the Green New Deal is perhaps the biggest scam in the world. Those are the words of President-elect Donald J. Trump. So what happens if the USA is not financing COP, is not financing the push for climate change? Low carbon emission, that is the target. Zero carbon emission, that's the focus. So one of the major powers, that is the major financiers, United States of America, may not be financing it anymore if the words of Donald Trump do actually come to pass. He has said so. These are concerns Guterres was actually trying to raise when he talked about helping vulnerable countries. They shouldn't be left alone to deal with the impact of climate change. Now that brings to mind Nigeria, my own country, Nigeria. And of course, vulnerable communities in the Niger Delta where I go to most times, Yenagoa, Ogbea, different local government areas, who helps them? If major financiers are pulling out, well, the USA for now, so others should step up and help the world and help vulnerable nations. That's a major concern for me, Rufai and Vimbai.
Ovieteme, as you've said that, we've already watched the opening speech from the president of Azerbaijan, and you've given us a picture of what things could look like with Donald Trump coming in. How impactful do you think it's going to be that the opening speech was not a unifying message? Do you think this is almost a prophecy of what COP, will become in the future? Is this the beginning of the end?
Well, I wouldn't say it is the beginning of the end at the moment because early days yet. This is just day 3, but it sends a very big message out there that sometimes certain countries are not really united. They don't really have a common cause. There are countries who still indulge so much in gas flaring. Perhaps their economies greatly run by oil and gas. So what happens to such countries when you talk about phasing out fossil fuels? Some would make a commitment, want to push out fossil fuels, but going the extra mile. That is the reason most persons feel that COP is usually a ritual. People come, talk, and go. They want to see people walk the talk. Sincerity, that is the word I've been trying to look out for. So it's more about an alignment. Different countries, different nations talking about their interests, how they can protect each other's interests, and then do whatever they have to do when it comes to the COP. COP28 in 2023, that is Dubai Expo City. One would be thinking that there is a progressive move towards COP29 and then COP30, but sometimes there are dissenting voices. And when these happen, the thing is one has to be patient and wait to see how they discuss, negotiate. It's more about negotiations most times. Negotiate and see how they can protect one another's interests. But who bears the brunt? Who bears the brunt here? The vulnerable countries that should be helped, the vulnerable countries that should be protected. That is the reason I'm so concerned about the speech of the UN Secretary General yesterday, Antonio Guterres. Speaking at the opening, it said world leaders should redeem their pledges. In other words, the financial commitment should continue. Some are talking about $1 trillion. But it should go beyond that. But if the USA is pulling out, what other countries are coming in? If Trump would eventually match his words with action, then there's much concern here. So Vimbai, you're making a valid point there. What countries should talk about this and see how they can help.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah,
Ruth is here, actually. Ruth is here. Are you seeing, at least from when you landed, and I don't know how much you got a chance to look around, are you seeing any efforts from Azerbaijan to move towards a more climate-friendly future? I mean, just for everyone to know, it's a $72 billion economy. Growth slowed from about 4.6% GDP growth in 2022 to just 1.1% in 2023. So, their exports have taken a bit of a hit. But from what you're seeing there, are you seeing electric vehicles or charging stations or any efforts of Azerbaijan itself to go towards a more climate-friendly future?
Yes, electric vehicles, yes. I'm not too sure I saw other vehicles, but electric vehicles, yes. The CNG and all that. Well, I didn't stop at a gas station, so I wouldn't know about that. But the vehicles, when I look at it, it's all about walking the talk. You can't be hosting United Nations Climate Change Conference and not demonstrate, So what we've been seeing, we are even being careful. They look at it, carbon credit, carbon capture, carbon streaming, all the calculations and all that. So one has to be careful. But I tell you, the CNG vehicles, but even the bus that brought us here, it's a long walk, Rufai, I must tell you. A long walk, perhaps for security reasons. Commercial vehicles stop at a very far distance for buses to bring us here. All it talks about is green economy, green revolution. So yes, I can attest to that very fact, that what I see here, CNG vehicles, buses.
All right. Well, so many takeaways, lessons to be learned. We'll keep up to date with you as the conference continues. Thank you so much, Ovieteme George, live from Baku, Azerbaijan.